Okay, we are back with Crossing the Axis, the biz side of video production. I am Max Kaiser. I am the CEO of Pipeline Video Production Software, and I am also the host of Crossing the Axis. And today, that makes me a very lucky guy because I get to be with someone who I am so excited. First of all, we've never had a guest from Europe. We've never even had a guest from outside of the United States. And we have that today with Emma Wilson. And Emma is a destination wedding filmmaker, a storyteller, an entrepreneur, an adventurer, a mother of two, a motivational speaker, a coach and mentor, a straight talk visionary, a skier, a dog lover, and a gin drinker. This is all from Emma's site. I don't know her well enough to tell you all those things, but I am so excited to have you today, Emma. Thanks for joining us.
It's a real privilege to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I just want to start by saying your work is absolutely phenomenal. It is amazing. You are completely redefining in my mind what a wedding video could or ever would have hoped to be.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. That is my intention and my ethos and philosophy. And actually that came about, that idea of redefining wedding films, from another producer who actually doesn't even like wedding films, but said, the thing is, Emma, you make wedding films that aren't really wedding films. They just so happen to be getting married. So yeah, that's definitely the case.
Well, it's amazing because it's true. I think that wedding films in our industry have gotten, get a certain sort of, I don't know what you call it, a certain sort of bad reputation, maybe.
Well, yeah, they do. Even
turn that on its ear. Folks, you have to see these to believe them. What's the website again, Emma?
It's storyofyourday.com.
Storyofyourday.com. Her name of her company is of one of her companies, I should say, is Story of Your Day. And these are they're filmed in beautiful locations. She somehow has beautiful people who are getting married. The color grading is absolutely phenomenal for you tech heads out there. The editing is great. The music is great. All together. They're gorgeous pieces. When my wife saw one of them, she was so upset because we didn't have anything remotely close, and she thought we were very cheated. It's amazing we've made it this far.
Oh dear.
So tell us a little bit about how you got here. How did you get to where you are? Because I know it's a really interesting background.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, you just hit the nail on the head there about the reputation for wedding films, because I actually fell into it. I worked for the BBC as a video journalist and a newsreader in the UK for 20 years. And on my second maternity leave, actually, I only had 6 weeks off on my first, but on my second, I managed to take a year. And a photographer friend of mine that also had worked at the BBC was a wedding photographer, and she said, "Oh, why don't you start making wedding films?" And I was like, I actually can't think of anything worse. We all had these conversations in our head of, a fly in the wall, 2-hour-long films. Right. And I was like, no, nah. But then a couple of weeks later, a colleague from work asked me to film their wedding. And then my brother-in-law asked me to film his wedding. And I started thinking, oh, well, look, I'll do these things for a laugh. And right from the outset, I wanted to do something quite different. I didn't look at any other wedding videographers, but my background as a storyteller meant that I automatically fell into this storytelling route. And I'd assigned my dad to come up with the name because I didn't have enough time. I was working full time at the BBC. So my dad came up with Story of Your Day because I said, look, think about what I am. I'm a storyteller. I'm a journalist. So I want to come up with something. So he came up with the name of the company. I decided I really quite liked it. So for about 4 years, I was juggling my job at the BBC with filming weddings. And then I decided, actually, this is all a little bit too much. So I wanted to have the freedom. I wanted more time with my family. I thought it would give me flexibility. We all know that working for yourself doesn't give you any of those things, of course. So I resigned from the BBC. My dad didn't speak to me for about 3 months. He was so cross because he just thought this wedding film thing would be a fad. And so that enabled me to concentrate on Story of Your Day. And ultimately, it meant that when my husband decided that he wanted to relocate to Switzerland, I was able to say, yeah, let's have a go for a couple of months. So that was 5 years ago. We just never went back home to the UK. So I'm still in Switzerland.
It sounds like you really just followed your gut for what you felt like was going to make a great film for these people's special day.
Yeah. And also, I wasn't so worried about the technology that I was using at the time. DSLR cameras were the in thing.
Yeah.
But I had 2 cameras that the BBC had very kindly handed over to me, video cameras, Sony Z7s, I think they were.
Yeah.
And I had some good audio equipment. And for me, the audio is and always has been half the story. I started my life in broadcast on the radio. Yeah. I absolutely love listening to the radio because I think our imagination is very, very strong. So I think, storytelling, audio has to be half the story. So for me, that's just where I fell into it. To be honest with you, though, I would say that I don't like the name of my company now, because back then, story wasn't on brand. It wasn't a thing everybody talked about. Yeah. And I felt quite unique and quite different then. And I really stood out. And then, of course, this, even Canon's line is live for the story. And everyone started talking about storytelling. And for a while, I got a little bit, a bit angsty on my website. I was like, I do tell the story of your day, unlike other videographers. And then I started thinking, you've got to let go of this. People, when they commission you, they'll either get you and understand this, and they'll see you're different. So from the start, I was always into the storytelling aspect of it and into the audio side of things.
And how long have you been doing the wedding videos?
12 years.
Oh, wow. And you do a fair number a year. I mean, it looked like, obviously pandemic notwithstanding, I was looking at your blog and you had almost 3 or 4 recent entries. So you're doing on a normal year, maybe 10 or so a year?
No. So, well, let me tell you a little story about this. When we moved to Switzerland, I had 23 weddings to edit. And each wedding had a trailer, a film of the day, a ceremony, and speeches in full. So that we're not talking about just 23 weddings. Actually, the thought of that now makes me feel pretty sick. It was, my anxiety was really high. It was, we moved here to ski and spend a bit of time with my family, and I was going to edit, but I never saw the slopes. I was just edit. And so I vowed to myself then that there had to be a different way forward. And so actually, since that point, and that's 2016, I've decreased the amount of weddings I film each year. So the following year, it was, I think, 17, and then 15, and then 12. This year's been 6. And next year, I won't do any more than 12. I'm still filming a couple from pre-COVID. And
this really all comes back to this is maybe the reason I really wanted to have you on the show, honestly, was because of this what you talk about your balance between the passion for your craft and having a life. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think your approach to it sounds really amazing. It's something that I think our listeners, whether they're whatever kind of videos they do, our craft has a way of taking over your life. And how do you balance those things?
The thing is, for me, I have to, with most of my wedding work, I have to be away from home for 3 days. I live in a car-free ski resort. And even if I film a wedding in Switzerland, I normally have to go away the night before, and I can't get home that night. But a lot of my weddings are all across Europe and all over the world. So therefore, I'm away at least 3 days. And while that might seem really fun and really glamorous, and don't get me wrong, I always have the best time, and my clients are completely awesome. They're all my dream clients. I do miss my family, and it is it's really hard. It's really hard taking all that kit away with you. I mean, I'll let you in on a secret, terrible at flying. I mean, I'm a terrible flyer. And considering I have to go on a plane so often for my work, it's a miracle I actually get on board. But I don't let those anxieties and those things worry me. I just have to, just get on with it. So for me, I started realizing about 6 years ago that I needed to film fewer weddings of only my dream clients in my dream locations, but for a lot more money. And that to me became really, really important. So this year, while I've only filmed 6 weddings, I've earned a lot more than I did, say, 6 years ago from just purely weddings.
What is it? What's the litmus for the right client for you?
Sorry, say that again.
So what does it take to be the right client for you?
Well, they've got to have some money because I'm not cheap.
Yeah. How much does one cost? How much does a wedding cost?
I start from 10,000 Swiss francs or UK pounds or euros, depending on where I am, for a short 4 to 6 minute film. But I'd say on average, by the time I've delivered more and more upsells, we're normally going towards 15,000. But my my biggest commission this year was for just a wedding with 11 guests, and that was 23,000. It has got nothing to do with the size of the wedding, and everything to do with what I'm delivering. Yeah. So that client wanted an NDA. That client wanted 4K footage. They wanted the intellectual rights of the footage because they're getting married again next year somewhere else. So they might want to use the footage again. So the price goes up and up and up. And then I'm particularly good at upselling. So while my basic offering is a trailer and a 15-minute film of the day, I then offer ceremony in full, a speeches in full, a FOMO edit, a sneak peek, and nobody gets anything for free from me. But for my clients, I'd say that actually mostly budget is inconsequential. Their priority is a videographer. They fall in love with my work. They want their story told. They don't want a generic highlights film like everybody else's. And so they commission me without question, really. I will say one thing, not many of my clients, in fact, none of my clients recommend me to friends or family because they just don't want to share me around.
Well, that's terrible. I mean, first of all, I think those prices are ridiculously reasonable. I just looking at your work, to me, that, and knowing what my company charged for things, for making commercials and corporate films, I think that those prices are completely great.
I mean, I think it is interesting noting that it is a completely different budget for weddings, and it is completely different charging. Even the way I charge is different for weddings. But if you compare that to the average UK videographer, which, although I'm not in the UK anymore, I'm still part of a lot of UK videography groups. I did some research earlier on in the year before I did a talk for the video show in the UK called The Price is Right. And I found that most videographers charge around $1,500 or $1,500 or around £1,800 for wedding videos. So there's a big difference there. And that's really what I was charging when I was filming loads more weddings.
And how did you arrive at those numbers? I mean, is it really just that's what you need to do that many to have what you need to make? I mean, I always sort of encourage people to just simply look at what do you need to make and work it backwards from there. Is that basically how you're doing it?
I think the thing is, once you start getting some big clients, and then you get inquiries through, even though those inquiries might be for £3,500-4,000, and you might have jumped at those even 18 months ago. Now I just won't commission for less because I know what I can charge.
Yeah.
And we can all go around going, am I worth it?
Yeah.
And we all face imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I have to decide what I'm worth to go to film a wedding as a solo shooter.
Yep.
My skills, my experience, my background, and the product that I deliver. And for me, that is, that is what I charge. If I can charge more, I'll charge more. I do Google potential clients. I do see what their net worth is if that information is available. And sometimes I charge accordingly.
Yeah. And tell us about this imposter syndrome. You've talked about that a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of the reasons why I don't look at other videographers' work. I think it's a total waste of time. The only time I look at other videographers' work is for my Evolve Videography Training, and I'm critiquing people's work. But if we all go around comparing ourselves to others and then looking at what they charge, either we start feeling we're not charging enough, or we think, oh my God, am I overpriced? So how's that work? It's not worthwhile.
Yeah.
So I tend not to compare myself to others. I think what I offer is something completely different.
It is.
And if I start looking at other people's work, would I be tempted to, move my style? Although my style is always obviously improving and evolving, an analogy would be, when about 5 years ago, I didn't really grade. I was happy with the pro loss setting that I had in my camera. I like to look in the back of my DSLR camera and go, right, that's lovely. I love that look. And I also knew what my capabilities were. For me, the story was the focus, rather than maybe the aesthetic shot. So for me, the grading wasn't that important. And then, grading became a real thing. I mean, and I work really closely now with Color Finale. I'm one of their ambassadors, but I teach people to color correct first and understand what they're doing with color. Well, actually, I teach them how to film exposed right in the first place. And then when I grade a film, because I do grade now, I back it off so much. It is a real, it's just the essence. I remember a videographer sent me a film a few years ago and said, what do you think of this film? They're a friend of mine, but we used to send our films back and forth if we were a bit worried about it. And I said, oh, that was a lovely film. I really loved it. What a shame that you were out in Italy and the weather was so bad. And they said, what do you mean the weather was so bad? It was beautiful. And I went, well, what on earth have you done with the grade? Because it was just this brown, dirty, in color that wedding videographers use a lot of, because they see everybody else doing it. So they think, jump on the bandwagon. And I'm like, no, it's got to accentuate that day. It's got to accentuate that story. But you're not making wedding films for your peers or to win awards. I'm making wedding films for my clients. So they want a true representation of their day. And therefore it's not got to look like World War II.
How do you handle the day of the shoot? It's so with my company, we literally did one wedding video, and I said, we can't ever do that again. It was so stressful. It was just, and we would do $250,000 ads, but we could not do a wedding video because I just found them to be so ridiculously. You can't recreate certain aspects of the day. You have to be both a narrative and a documentary filmmaker simultaneously. How do you handle the stress of that? Plus the fact that everybody there is sort of stressed out too a little bit, or could be.
I would be lying if I didn't say that I have wedding nightmares, because all wedding videographers do. One of mine is being at the bottom of a maze and seeing the ceremony at the top of the maze, and it's just about to start, and I've got to make my way through the maze. Or that I arrive and I've got no batteries, or I've got no cards. So these are all things that videographers who film weddings dream about. But it is a live event. It is all about preparing for that live event and managing the expectations of your client. But I do a lot of work ahead of the event. Each client fills in a wedding details form. I have a long Zoom call with them ahead of the day to go through the details of who's speaking, when they're speaking. I also offer a lot of advice when, they say, oh, we would like speeches between courses. And I'm like, well, that's logistically not going to work, but also who wants to see people eating while you're doing speeches?
Yeah.
So my clients trust me. I'm not at the level where clients come to me and say, this is what's happening. They actually ask me what my advice, what I think would work, because obviously I've been to more weddings than they have. And I work very closely with the planner and the photographer. I've never turned up to a wedding without having called the photographer first, liaise with the planner. Even vicars get a call from me. I will never turn up to a church and be told you can't film, because I would have known that ahead of time. So it's all in the planning. It's all in the preparation. That allows you on the day then to be able to be to capture to capture everything as it unfolds naturally without having to set anything up, because you know when something's going to happen next, because you've got those timings, you know them in your head. I also think that being a news journalist really, really helped, because I used to film a lot of live events. So I'm able to anticipate what's happening next and then film it without being in a panic.
Yeah, I'm sure that is an amazingly useful background for doing those. And I'm also sure that, by charging a little bit more, you're establishing yourself, and that suddenly gets people to say, wait a minute, I'm paying this person well. I should defer to them. They know what's going on. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I am. They're commissioning me as not only their videographer, but an expert and someone that's going to hold their hand and look after them. And they trust me. I just had an email now from a client whose wedding I'm filming in December. And, they were debating whether or not they were going to share their vows with one another. And they weren't going to do this during the ceremony. So I'd said, why don't you think about doing it ahead of time? They're getting married at the Corinthia, which is an unbelievably beautiful hotel in London. And they're in a penthouse suite with views over the city. And I'd said, we can record them first thing in the morning here. If they used, they used. If they're not, they're not, but you've got them. And they came back to an email saying, yeah, we were a bit reserved about this, but we trust you. We believe in you. And that's why we've commissioned you. So it's all about that.
I noticed a couple stylistic things that, beyond, I mentioned your color grading, which I think is fantastic, truly fantastic. You also shoot in quite a wide aspect ratio, I noticed.
Well, I just put cinematic bars on the top, but when I'm shooting, obviously I'm shooting with that 2:35 aspect ratio in my head. I love a lot of negative space. I love so that works really beautiful in that aspect ratio. For sure, I have signature shots within my films, which is silhouette shots, shooting through things, dirty shots, things that are a little bit different. But the one thing that you will notice about my style, or at least I hope you've noticed, is I don't use a gimbal or anything like that. I use something called a steady pod from the States. So it's like it's steady like a tripod, but it's on one leg and the feet really spread out at the bottom. But all my shots are completely stable. And the action flows through the shot. I don't chase the action. I position my shot and I wait for the action to unfold. It's quite brave, but it's always worth it, because it really helps with the storytelling. And because another thing I do is frame by frame editing, then you need to be able to film stable shots in order to be able to use the rules of syntax.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've said for a long time that I think the gimbal, the all the steady shot stuff has made us so much lazier about how we frame our shots from the get-go, that we just don't take the time to make great framing first and then work from there. So hats off to you.
Yeah, that's definitely how I work. It's all about framing the shot, allowing the action to unfold, not being scared. So say I'm on a wide shot and the bride sees her father for the first time, or the first look with the bride and groom, or groom and groom, and they see each other for that first moment. There's always that temptation, isn't there, is to reframe quickly. But I don't. I mean, I always shoot those sorts of things on two cameras anyway, one locked off, and then one that I'm working on. But I just don't reframe. I think the client doesn't mind if it's just a wide shot. They would rather you nail the wide shot, get the wide shot, than lose the shot completely by reframing.
Right. Absolutely. So let's move from wedding videography for a moment and talk about Evolve, your class that you teach both in person and online. Is that right?
So Evolve Videography Training came about because when I joined the wedding film business, there weren't actually very many female wedding filmmakers. So first off, I set up a Facebook group called Female Film Creatives, which
and
is
why did you do that? I remember reading something about that you felt that the current Facebook groups just weren't very hospitable.
Well, they were just not always, but some of them were really intimidating.
Yeah.
And some elite groups, I would ask a simple question like, for instance, what should I use, an SD card or a CF card?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference? Is one more stable than the other? And the answer was, why don't you put your SD cards in the fridge? No, you put them in the toaster. And also, you would ask a technical question and you would just get all this information that came back that just went way over my head. And also it was all about the gear all the time, all the gear, no idea, having the latest kit, constant, instead of this focus on learning how to use the gear that you already have and become a master of that camera before buying something new and trying to learn something new when actually you weren't very good with what you already had. So I set up Female Film Creatives. And then shortly after that, I realized there was a need for videography training just for women. So I launched solo sessions first, which is one-to-one training, initially in person, now online. And then Evolve Videography Retreats, again, just for women at first here in Switzerland. Then I had a few guys complaining that guys weren't invited. So I opened it up to guys, but of course they didn't really want to come anyway, did they? So a couple of couples came. And then I opened up my Evolve Mastermind. Then I wrote last year some online courses during COVID. And then this year I launched Evolve Mastermind, which is for female filmmakers. So it's an online course with also with a Facebook group, with weekly webinars, with weekly library co-working spaces so that we can all be working together and supporting one another. That's my niche offer really, is Evolve Mastermind. So now, I have lots of women involved, and I'm here to inspire, empower them, and to educate them.
So how do you approach teaching women differently than you would teach men? What's the difference?
Hey, look, I teach men as well. I have some clients that are my solo sessions. I have plenty of guys that have bought my online course. It's just that I do feel that a lot of men feel threatened by me in Facebook groups and in actually just in the videography community in the UK. I don't know if it's just a UK thing. I don't know. But but the women that I teach, it's just a different conversation. And it's not like I teach them differently, but the conversation that we have between one another and the support that we offer each other is just more rounded. And as I say, it's not all about the gear. It's about lots of other things. And I do think that women have something to offer really amazing for wedding films, and they just have to believe in themselves more. Definitely, I think that they suffer with imposter syndrome more, and then they get worried about the competition around them. Whereas I do find that men are just a little bit more confident in themselves and don't look to what other people are doing in order to, find their worth and their value.
You must have some theories. What I know that I do about why women in our line of work are so scarce. What do you think? What do you think causes that?
I don't know. When I was at the BBC, I put myself in newsrooms which were male dominated: business newsroom, sports newsroom, where I was always referred to as my surname Massey and never my maiden name. And I've got 3 brothers, and I've now got 2 sons. So I've always felt quite comfortable and confident surrounded by men. So, but I don't know if everybody feels that confidence. And when you go to workshops and retreats and online discussions, there's just so many more men. Yeah. And that just means that women naturally don't come forward. And then when they do come forward, they would rather have a safe space and a safe group to do so. So you see some women posting the same thing in my group as they would in another videographer's group. And the way that they are, the answers that they get, the way that they are supported and helped is just something completely different. I just think that women don't feel confident. Look, if I have to post about Evolve Videography Training, I will post it in my own group or in a female group without hesitation. To post anything in any group that's mixed, I have to build up the courage. And once I press that return key, I literally have to log off for the day because I don't want to see the comments.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you, first of all, for doing it, because as an owner of a production company, I just constantly was looking for female talent, and I struggled to find it. We wound up developing our own in-house, generally from producers. We often had a lot of female producers, but we didn't have a lot of female directors. And I was always at a loss as to why that is, but you're helping me to understand it quite a bit more. So thank you, and thanks for helping these ladies up.
I just think in general, if you're a filmmaker and you're at a wedding, you might feel. I mean, there are lots of things to deal with. Yeah. So why I think you have producers, not directors, is because directors need to have a voice. They need to stand out much more. And I don't think that women always feel that comfortable with doing that. I'll be at a wedding, and if I'm working alongside a photographer who's a male, people automatically think that I'm working for that person. Here in Switzerland, it's crazy that the sexism here is crazy. I mean, I am literally expected to be at home. So when I go on a shoot here, it's like, where's your boss? Who's filming it? And I'm there stood with my camera. Who's editing it? And they just literally cannot get their head around it at all. And the fact that I'm a business owner and I'm a camera person, perhaps throwing myself out of a helicopter or hanging off a cable car, and then I'm going into the edit and I'm editing it, they literally cannot wrap their head around that. And so while there are more female videographers in the wedding world, and it is growing, it really is growing, in the corporate world, there's still very few of them.
The world, a world that because you also have a corporate video production company, which does some beautiful work. Now, I thought it was interesting that a lot of this work seems to have to do with the ski and travel industry. So once again, you've kept it all pretty close to home, and things that you love, right?
Yeah. So the Story Creatives, again, with story in mind, is a corporate and branding company. And I really wanted to keep it local, to be honest with you. A lot of the work that I do is not only here in Switzerland, but it's in my valley. It's for cable cars. It's for the ski school. And, that's meant that I've actually
hotels,
gone further.
Beautiful hotel work.
Yeah, and hotels as well. But it has meant that I've obviously gone further afield with international cable companies here and with hotels further afield. But there's nothing better than rolling out of the back of my door and literally walking 5 strides across to film for the cable company. Right. Or going to Grindelwald and my commute is up the cable car, down the gondola. So I absolutely love that work. It's still very niche. It's still very storytelling. I let the characters within the films tell the story. There's not a lot of narration in the films, apart from the people that I'm actually doing the films for. I let them tell their own story. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm really, really blessed, and I love the corporate work here. And it helps obviously that I can ski and I have loads of different gear. So I just go out and sometimes I have to pinch myself. I'm sitting there working for the ski school and I've gone off piste for the day. to film the off-piste groups, and I'm like thinking, oh my God, I'm working. This is
Well, that's
insane.
what it's all about, right? I mean, that's why we do
Yeah.
what we do. We do it so that we can follow the love of what we do. And the people that I found that seem to succeed the most follow the most closely to what they love. So even just keeping it in your valley, as you say, you find some pretty amazing things there. You don't have to go that far, and that far afield. And I think that's important for people to understand. Certainly, that all think that only videography and pursuing your dream only exists in the big cities. No, it very much can exist in many amazing ways at very high levels of production. In so many different nooks and crannies where we live,
Yeah, I think obviously, I mean, I'm very fortunate because the pay is very good in Switzerland. So is the cost of living very high.
Yep.
But so working on corporates is very lucrative here.
Yep.
But I know that video is, drives traffic, and more people want videos and films. So yeah, just to be on top of that. And sometimes it's not even about wanting to film stuff myself, but actually educating, the local tourist office or cable car company that they just what they need to be doing in order to get more attention. So yeah, I am very, very lucky. I live in a very picturesque part of Switzerland. Yeah, so that obviously does help, especially with my drone. But yep. Yeah, so I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah. So let's just wrapping up, again, the theme that I hear and I see throughout the video about yourself, the video work that you do, it all seems to stem from this idea of balance between your business, your passion. Can you tell us what the secret is for those?
Yeah, I don't know what the secret. I think it's the secret is getting. I've always worked, and I'm almost 50, and I'd really like to stop working soon. And I'm sure that when I'm sure that in a couple of years, my idea of a dream job would be just owning a cafe or something up here. But for sure, I'm sending my teams now out to film weddings. I love editing. Editing is my real passion. Yep. And my other real passion is teaching and empowering and inspiring everybody, but in particular female filmmakers. And I think it's all about on your work side, making sure that you're only working for your ideal clients in your dream locations. And that also, is exactly the same for my corporate clients. And that allows you to have more time. I am very, very busy. I work more days than I would like to, but it's all baby steps, and it's all about reaching a goal. And I think that if you can spend more time with your family, that will make you better at what you do. So I just think that I have to make sure that I have beautiful holidays each year, that I have a lot of skiing with my kids, a lot of walking in the mountains, and just living those moments and being in those moments. And I certainly feel that I'm getting much better at literally switching my computer off and closing the office door. My office, by the way, is in the apartment next to my apartment, so I can actually do that. And then if I forget something, run back. But actually switching that computer off and going home and spending time with the family, it's absolutely crucial.
Well, it's late in the afternoon, Friday.
Yeah. In
Jurgen, Switzerland, where you are reaching us from. Did I say that right?
Wengen.
Okay, I did not.
Wengen. It's Wengen, but it's Wengen.
Wengen. Okay. And it's time for you to be able to get back to your weekend. Thank you so much. It has been very inspirational speaking with you. It has been, I hope, inspirational for some of the women listening in our audience, as well as the men, as well as the wedding videographers out there, and anyone that is looking to bring the balance to their work that we all need, bring the goal setting to our work that we all need to get to that extra level. Could you just tell us once more where, if we wanted to look up Evolve, where we might do that?
Yeah. So my wedding film company is storyofyourday.com and Evolve is evolvevideographytraining.com.
Because you do
And
have
I'm obviously on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Emma. We really appreciate it and look forward to hearing from you again.
Okay. Thank you so much. A lovely way to wrap up my week.
Thank you.